Hello, welcome to another episode of Uncommon Logic, the Markets Update, empowering you with financial insight in plain English. Lots going on, as I'm sure you know. 2021 is starting off as crazy as 2020. We've got a new administration in place, and the Democrats now control the presidency, Congress, and the Senate. That is a lot of power to implement their policies. So we will see what happens. There will be a lot of new spending on programs, which means the money printing presses by the Federal Reserve have only just begun. And the printing of this monopoly money will soon be on steroids. Now, that may all sound good because of all the new programs, but there is a price to pay for this. That is just borrowed money from the future. We're still dealing with COVID, and now we have this crazy Robin Hood short squeeze. Basically, it's a David versus Goliath phenomenon that's happening. And I'll be talking more about that, dissecting that in my next video. And speaking of COVID, we now have a $1.9 trillion stimulus package on the table. Yes, that's a trillion with a T. Now it's almost 2 trillion in additional stimulus. And it's kind of crazy when you consider that $1 trillion from the previous stimulus hasn't even been spent yet. And now we're talking about another 2 trillion, but they're just going to create out of thin air. And as many of you have heard me say, my Wall Street technical term for this is bananas. But despite the craziness and the lunacy coming out of DC, and that's not a political statement because both sides are at fault. Despite all this craziness, I do believe there are always opportunities to thrive. And that's my goal for you, is to help you identify those opportunities. And I think there are a lot of them today. I'm actually very bullish on the stock market for a couple of reasons, but mainly because there's just going to be so much stimulus injected into this market. I don't think the markets have anywhere else to go but up, but not forever. And if you run some formulas based on historical data versus interest rates, you could make the case this market is undervalued, which means it's a great time to invest. And that's even after the new administration adds on all these new regulations they keep talking about. I think the markets will continue to move up again for the time being. But let me also add my caveat. That's barring some national or international crisis, which of course is possible at any time. So, we are looking at businesses opening up soon. In fact, where I live in Northern California, things are opening up. We got gyms, hair salons, restaurants, indoor dining. We are open for business, and I think we'll see that continue throughout the country. And the amount of money sitting on the sidelines will begin to circulate through the economy. Think about this. The average savings rate for Americans is normally around 7%. That's how much people typically save. Yet today, it's sitting around 26%. That's a massive difference. People weren't out shopping, right? They've been locked down because of COVID. So they've stored up a lot of cash. So when the movies open up, restaurants, gyms, amusement parks, sports, concerts, you name it, we are likely to see a flurry of new spending, which of course will be great for the economy, great for businesses, great for workers, and great for the markets, not to mention great for our sanity, right? And even greater news, we're seeing a strong push to get our kids back to school, which is fantastic. I don't want to go down that path on that decision. Again, just bananas. Now, there's always the other side of the coin, right? All the money that's been printed and distributed and more to come, another $2 trillion, essentially printed out of thin air, may lead to something that we haven't seen in a very, very long time, which is inflation. In fact, some people out there are saying we're looking at hyperinflation. I'll be addressing that a little bit later, but for now, let me just state, we are setting ourselves up for the perfect storm, for hyperinflation. We have excess financial stimulus, excessive money supply that hasn't been circulating. And then lastly, we have less domestic and international production of goods and services. Basically what we will see is a lot of money chasing fewer goods, and that is a recipe for inflation. And when you consider the money supply, a measurement of how much money is in circulation, in the 70s, when we did see hyperinflation, the money supply rose 13%. In fact, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this time period, this was a time where mortgage rates, get this, were over 15%. Yes, 15%. Mortgage rates were through the roof. But today, we see the money supply has risen 28% over the past 12 months, 28%. As I just said, it was 13% in the 70s, and that was a horrible time period. But today we're over double that. And what is inflation anyway? Well, inflation is basically a hidden tax on your wallet, right? If your grocery bill is $50 and now it's $75 a week, that is in essence a tax. The value of your dollars you use to purchase things has gone down. The dollar's purchasing power has decreased during inflation because your dollars don't pay for the same amount of stuff. So it's like a taxation. And remember this analysis did not include the additional $2 trillion they're planning on releasing, adding even more to the money supply, compounding this hyperinflation that we may see. So all of this is a double-edged sword. I get it. There's no way to pinpoint what may happen. You can only take the data and make educated guesses. That's kind of the fun of it. So having said all of that, I do see our economy growing in the low 4% range in 2021, which would be great. And the number of people working growing at an exponential rate. Businesses opening up, more travel, more activities, sporting events, etc. Couple that with all the stimulus and the amount of money people have been hoarding, I think 2021 could be a banning year despite what they do in Washington. Look, housing's been strong. Private business investment is up around 25%. Manufacturing looks solid. And even the low jobs report we saw in December showed underlying strength. I don't think this is a time to hide your money under the mattress. I do think there's a lot of opportunity right now. So that's it for today. My next episode coming out very soon. I'm going to address this Robinhood situation and kind of dissect that and give you my point of view on sort of the bigger picture of it. And then after that, I do want to address our debt, which is out of control, and the spending and what this means to you and your financial life. And it's not something you just shrug off and say, well, that's somebody else's problem, because it isn't. It's all of our problems. So lots more coming up. In that case, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Love to hear from you. Leave a comment. With that, upward and onward. Take care.